In this video, I'll tell you about an entire line of great hard plastic miniatures for all kinds of fantasy and sci-fi wargaming that you might not know about, and why I like it. Games Workshop miniatures are widely thought to be the best in the wargaming business. I'm not sure that this is purely objectively true, but most people believe it to be true. However, that kind of best in the business quality comes at a price, a massive price in many cases, and I mean dollars, right? Whether the cost is actually justified by the quality, and whether we're starting to kind of hit diminishing returns in that regard, all that is probably the subject of another video. Let me know if I should make that video. Let me know down in the comments below. But for now, we're going to talk about something else and why I like it. If you're looking for great sculpts that are posable, modular, hard plastic models for fantasy and or sci-fi gaming, and you'd like those models to be reasonably priced and make you a better kit basher, then you need to start looking at the line of Frostgrave and Stargrave models from Northstar Military Figures. They have tons of different kits that'll cover pretty much any kind of fantastical genre that you're playing in. I've bought a lot of their sets over the last 8 years or so, and I honestly don't regret any of them. Here's a quick history. I believe the first sets of these models came out shortly after the release of Joseph McCullough's excellent fantasy skirmish game, Frostgrave, published through Osprey Games in like 2015. I'm pretty sure the first sets of these models that I saw were the Soldiers and the Cultist sets, both which immediately caught my eye. They had great character to them, especially the Cultists and those kind of hoods and the little faces and all that kind of stuff. And I was looking forward to getting them, for Frostgrave, because I already had built 2 warbands out of random stuff that I had, Reaper miniatures, kit bashed together with some GW stuff, along with some Reaper bones and also Reaper metal, all that kind of stuff. And I'd already built, like I said, and painted 2 different forces for Frostgrave, but I wanted to start expanding and going beyond that, and these looked great. Nowadays, Frostgrave has expanded to so many plastic kits available. Soldiers, as I mentioned. Soldiers 2, when they put a 2 after the name of a box set, then that means that they're female models instead of males, right? Cultists, gnolls, barbarians. Think more like wildlings in Game of Thrones and not like Conan the Barbarian, that kind of. Barbarians 2, wizards 2, knights, and demons. Then for the Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago expansion, right, which has got a lot of pirates and jungle islands and stuff like that, they made crewmen, which are kind of like sailing ship crew or pirates, snake men, and tribals. So there's a lot of choices, but what about the cost? Well, depending on where you buy them, the boxes seem to cost between 25 and 35 American dollars, and they come with enough to build 20 models in each box. On a Northstar website, which is English, they're generally listed at 20 to 22 British pounds, which, if you do the math, is between $25 and $27 American, so it really kind of depends on where you get them, right? There's a lot of online retailers that seem to sell them, and you might also be able to find them at your local shop as well. Check with them and see. The boxes generally just come with multiples of a single sprue design inside, right? So there's just basically one, copy of the sprue multiple times. And there's usually also round bases in the boxes as well, so you get those included. However, because of the modularity, right, all the different parts on that same sprue over and over again, you can build completely different models because they can be put together with all the different parts, right? Also, there's far more heads than you'll ever use on the models in any one of those boxes that you'll build. So you'll have tons and tons of extra heads and arms and weapons and whatnot for further kit bashing projects, in the future. Once the bodies are all used up off of the sprues, then just clip all the bits off and organize them. What about sci-fi, I hear you ask? Well, in 2021, Osprey released Stargrave, basically a sci-fi version of Frostgrave, also by Joseph McCullough. Shortly after launch, or maybe even right at launch, I'm not quite sure, Northstar began releasing a whole new set of sci-fi miniatures for the Stargrave setting. To date, we have Crew 2, again, ladies, right? Mercenaries, Mercenaries 2, Troopers, and most recently, Scavengers, which are honestly really, really fun models. I'm looking forward to, I just got them a little while ago, so I'm looking forward to building those. All of these boxes are the same price and figure count as the Frostgrave boxes. Both lines, the Frostgrave and the Stargrave models, are scaled the same, 28mm scale, and they're pretty much all surprisingly compatible with each other. You can use most parts from like one kit with another kit, even across like fantasy and sci-fi. This can allow you to make some really interesting kit bashes by using sci-fi parts on a fantasy body or fantasy parts on sci-fi bodies. Either way, the arm pairs are numbered so you know what works best with what. If you're holding a rifle and you need that other hand, to hold they'll have numbers on the shoulders where you glue it and then just match those numbers up, and it works pretty well. But you can always use whatever arms in any combination you want. As far as proportions are concerned, the models aren't so heroically scaled, aka thick, like as Space Marines and a lot of the other Games Workshop models are these days. Actually, they do match much better with the newer version of the Imperial Guard Shock Troopers, who are much less stocky and cartoonishly proportioned than they used to be, the old Cadians in comparison to the new ones. I like these models a lot because they're more realistically scaled as normal figures, which then makes them seem more normal in size when set next to big super soldiers, in your games and the like. And remember, these models aren't just useful in Frostgrave and Stargrave. They'll work in nearly any fantasy or sci-fi game. And if you start using them as a base for kit bashing, even just a little bit of kit bashing, like just simple head swaps and stuff like that, then they could work in all kinds of genres like post-apocalyptic or cyberpunk or honestly whatever you can imagine. You can use parts from other model companies or maybe bits that you 3D print or even just things that you might even try to sculpt with green stuff, that kind of thing. And they're cheap, You're like paying about $25 to $35 for 20 models, so you can feel better about kind of cutting them apart, and trying to see what you can get to happen. And this can't be overstated. The abundance of extra parts on these sprues, extra arms, extra weapons, pouches, grenades, daggers, and just so many different heads, including alien heads on the Stargrave sets. There's lots of different alien heads as well. This becomes a real supercharger to your other kit bashing efforts. The most important resource you need to make your kit bashing better, after your ideas, of course, is your kits with which to bash, right? Don't think of these as boxes with 20 miniatures for $25 to $30. Think of it as that, plus tons of new kit bashing parts. So that's why I like it. What do you think of these models? Did you know that there were so many different styles? Honestly, I realized I had missed a lot of releases that had come out in those sets, seeing some of them as I started doing research for this video. I need to pick up Wizards 2 and the Knights box, I think, as well. I already have all the Stargrave sets, and they're honestly all great. Which of these sets are your favorite? Let us all know down in the comments below. If you liked this video and the Why I Like It series, it'd be great if you hit the like button down there below. It really helps the channel out, and it helps get the news out to more people. Subscribe to see more, and thanks for watching.